This time we're going to attempt Unit 1, Assignment 1. So I bring it up and it said, create a project. Well, it might be tempting to simply duplicate your existing work. That won't help you learn how to program or use Unity. Instead, create a new project for yourself from scratch. Name your project My Game. So let's do that. So do new. We'll call this My Game. Great. So now, just like you did in the lesson, create a plane to act as a play field in your game world. Then create a 3D capsule for your player avatar and give both of these a color. Cool. So I'm going to go over here to create, go down to 3D object, choose plane, going to click inspector. Now on my asset section over here, project, I'm going to click material. And I'm going to call this plane because it's for my ground, or I can call it ground, how about? So now I'm going to click over here in albedo and choose a nice green color for my ground. I'm going to drag it onto my ground. Now I'm going to go create and capsule. Create 3D object, capsule. I'm going to give it a color. And come back down to create, material. I call this player. Come up to albedo. I'll give this a nice red color. There you go. Drag this onto the capsule. Since you're making a platform game with a scrolling playfield, you want the playfield to be really, really long. So the player starts at one end and progresses to the other end of the screen. With your plane selected, select its scale on the x-axis and the inspector view to 100. So I click the plane. Okay, make sure I'm up here in the inspector. I'm going to put the scale to 100. That's really long. That's X. Then set the plane's position on the X-axis to 490. So here's the plane. I'm going to put it in 490. So then my capsule starts at one end of the playing field. Okay, right-click the Assets folder on the left-hand plane of the project view. In the menu that appears, I'm going to browse to and select Create C# script. Create C# script. A script will appear in Project View called New Behavior Script. Select the file and renamed it to Player Handler. Make sure not to put in a space in there. The name must be one word. So next thing I want to do, it says double click on the player handler script to open it in Visual Studio. So double click it. Okay, add the following variable declarations after the first line of the class definition for player handler. So we look at this, and I don't see anything called player handler, so we're going to name new behavior script player handler because that's the name of the program. The program is going to look for the name player handler. So I'm going to call this player handler. Okay, what's the next thing it tells us to do? We're going to have under here, we're going to declare our first variable, private rigid body RB, semicolon. Private rigid body see, I can just click it, it'll come up. RB with a semicolon. I click enter. Okay, what's our next variable? Our next variable is private float move speed. Private, see, double click private float. Double click float. Move speed with a semicolon. Okay, the next one is what? Private float jump force. The semicolon. Do I have any more? Nope. You have just declared the variables, providing them with a type. Rigid body is a type. Okay. Float is a type. A float is a number that's a decimal. So you got two floats in here. An integer would be a whole number. Okay. You also use the private keyword. Private keyword means that inside of the curly braces is the only place that can access these terms. It's just an access modifier that restricts assets to those variables within the class itself. Nobody outside of the player handler class can use these. So now that you've declared your variables, you need to initialize them to assign them a value. This is usually done inside the start method. Initialization is required for some values, such as references to other game objects in the scene. These references will not be available till the game has started, so it's a good practice to follow the convention of initializing your variable values in the start method. So step 5 is initialize variables. Inside of the start method, in between the curly braces, add the following initialization. So we're in void start, right? Void start right here. Just like we had to change this to player handler, but void start's fine. RB is equal to get component rigid body. RB, I'm going to assign it to get component. This one. Rigid body. Okay, at the end it does what? Has opening and closing curly braces and a semicolon, right? Double check it. Sure does. Move speed, we're going to assign it 600F, semicolon. Enter. Move speed, right up here, we're going to initialize it. Move speed, double click it, equals 600F with a semicolon. Jump force is equal to 20,000 F. So double click jump force. We're going to assign it 20,000 F. The semicolon. Okay, so I'm going to save it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign this code to the capsule. So all I have to do is drag it on the capsule, actually. So I just drag it onto the capsule. Now if that doesn't work, I click capsule up here. Oh, it has it right here. Player handler is now attached to the capsule. I didn't think it took. So I don't have to add the script because it's already here. All right, the other thing you would do is add component. If you came down here to script, it would be one of your options here. It would have it listed here. But you don't have to add it because it's already there. Those are two ways to do it, basically. Okay, notice that you're using the equal signs to assign values. So move speed, we're assigning 600 F. Jump force, we're assigning 20,000 F. RB, we're assigning get component rigid body. Okay. So you haven't actually added a rigid body to your script to the game object. So we did that. We just did that. So we dragged the player handle script onto the capsule and added it as a component. And you alternately with your capsule selected, you can click add component in the inspector window and then search and add player handler to the script game object. Now that the script is associated with the game object, it's still a capsule on a barren plain. Soon enough, you'll design an interesting environment to surround it. Soon your capsule might be walking the city streets or forest. It's up to you. Select the capsule, then go select component, physics, rigid body, component, physics, rigid body. Now I have the rigid bodies down here. Okay, right underneath player handler script. You'll then see the rigid body component appear in the inspector view. Set the mass to 20 and the drag to 0.64. Also freeze the position on the Z axis. Click on constraints. Freeze position on the Z axis. And the rotation on the X, Y, and Z axis. Since this game is a platform game, you don't want the object to move or rotate on the Z axis, so you're disabling it accordingly. So save your project, submit a screenshot of your Unity editor, including the hierarchy view, the scene view, and the inspector with the player handler script and rigid body component for your capsule expanded and showing, as well as your final code. They say to take pictures of this. I'd say all you have to do is go File, Save Project, go File, Save Scene. We're called the Scene Level 1. There you go. We saved our project and we have the scene is saved as level 1. We called this My Game, right? There it is. Here is CS project. So I'm going to open the file location. Under Public Documents, Unity Projects, there's my game. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it onto my desktop. Don't paste the shortcut. Paste the whole folder onto your desktop. There it is. Now, because I'm not going to be able to do anything in its Unity folder, so I just copied it to my desktop. All I have to do is right click it, send to, compress zip folder. So I'm going to turn this game in. Instead of giving me 15 pictures, I can turn that in. So all I have to do is go to Graded Unity Assignment, Activity 1. Uh-oh, I'm only limited to 1 gigabyte. I think it'll go, though. Let me try and download it. Let me go to my desktop. I just put it right in there. There you go. Isn't that better than taking 6 snapshots and just doing it that way? Of course you can take snapshots of them. All right, but this seems to me like it's just a little bit easier. That's all there is to it. Have a great day. Bye.